Welcome back to Boomer's Playground. Today we're going to be going over section 215, which is going into functions. This is really where you start to see where programming kind of shines. So you've probably been going through some of these first couple of videos and you're probably just like, dude, why is this so hard to get into? Because like a lot of the stuff we've been learning has been pretty basic. And the level that we'll learn functions is probably going to be basic as well, but this is where we really start to see where we're like pulling things apart, which is like really, really cool. So often we need to perform a similar action many times, kind of like what I explained about. If you end up writing the same code multiple times, you want to start thinking, okay, can I pull this out into a function? And so we've already seen some examples of built-in functions to JavaScript, like the alert, the prompt, or the confirm. We're literally calling somebody else's code to handle that thing for us. And so here you'll see we have our function declaration. A very important part to this is the declaration. This does not mean the code runs. So, oh, sorry, that's from the last one. Oh. All right. So we have our function. Nothing ran yet. So we actually have to call our function, which you do by the function name and then the open and closing curly braces. So that's the first kind of the gotcha that some people have trouble with, is to create a function, you use the function keyword, you then name the function, and then you put the code in there. Again, this does not run the function, this just declares it. That's pretty much what that's saying there. So here we have the function, we have the name, and then here we have parameters. So parameters are these things. They're things that you pass into the function so you can do stuff with them. And so when you're creating the function, they're called parameters. When you run the function, like here, they're called arguments. There are some areas of JavaScript where the terminology is important. This is kind of sort of one of them. And if you do use them wrong, somebody will tell you and they will be jerks about it. Don't be that person. If you're not sure what the person's asking, all you have to do is this when you're creating the function or when you're calling the function, and then you'll know the difference. And so here it's kind of just showing the same thing. This creates it but doesn't run it, and then you can run it a bunch of times. Obviously this is not super helpful, but we'll get into more detail about what is. Here, any variables that you create within the function are only going to be available within that function. So here we have our show message. We're creating a string and we're alerting that string. Again, nothing happens yet. Then we call it. This will alert that. And then here we try to alert that message outside of this function. This will error because it has no idea what this message is because it's only available in this function. A function can access outer variables as well, but it will, well, and we'll do that on the next one. So here we have username, which is John. And then in here we create message, hello plus whatever this is. And then we alert that, and then that would run. Now, something to keep in mind is even though we're using username in this function, even though it's outside of here, message is still only available in this function because that's where it was created. It can also modify the outer functions here, so this will be a good one. So we have username John, function, username Bob, and then we create this message, and then we alert that message. Let's do this. All right. Okay, so we have this. So we have this right now. We have username here. In our show message, we have username. We're changing it. Then we're creating a message, and then we're alerting it. So right now, I have not run the show message function What do you guys think username is right now? I'll give you a second to think about it. All right. So it's going to be John. And that's because we've declared the function, but we have not run the function yet. So this username equals Bob's hasn't been executed. So now let's run this. Oh, see, and I forgot the curlies, so it just gives us that it's a function. All right, so we see hello, Bob. And now what do you guys think username is? I'll give you guys a second. All right, so now it's Bob because by running the function, we've run this code that changes the username value. The outer variable is only used if there's not a local one. So here you'll see we have username outside of the function and we have username inside of the function. This is good for example. You would never write code like this, but this is strictly an example. So when we use username right here, it's going to check in this function and be like, okay, cool. Is there a username available? And if there is, it'll use it. And it's only... And yeah, so it'll use the local one. And then from the outside world, the username that'll be used is still going to be the one outside of the function. So kind of think of them in their own worlds. So here it's just showing pretty much what I just explained. Variables declared outside of any function, such as the outer username and the code above, are called global. They're just called global because pretty much everybody has access to them. Here's the parameters that I was talking about. This is a way for you to pass data to your function that it can work with. So this is a great example right here. We have a from parameter and we have a text parameter. These names can be whatever you want as long as they're not a reserved JavaScript keyword. The only thing that matters is whatever you name them here, you need to use those names inside the function. And we'll see that more. And as we build this side project that I'm going to do in another playlist so you guys can kind of watch a couple of these, watch me build some stuff. You'll start to see how this works a lot more in that use case, but this is pretty cool. So here we pass in the first parameter, or this is an argument because we're calling the function. We're passing in a string of an, and then the second argument is a string of hello, and so we get an hello. Same with and what's up, same idea. They're just strings that we're passing in. When the function is called on those two lines, the given values are copied to local variables from and text, which just it's whatever these names are. Here's one more example. So we have a from, and we come down here, and you'll see we're setting from equal to some new thing that also has from in it. If you guys remember from the operators, the equal sign has like the lowest precedence ever. So everything on this right is going to run first. So that way, whatever we passed into from, we'll get to use, and then we're just going to reassign from to this new value. So, and here they're just showing that you could pass in a variable. So here you'll see it's the from variable, and then we still have our hello string. And so here you'll see we get an, which was the from variable passed in. So we put an asterisk on either side, set that equal to from, then we do our from, colon, text, and so we get and with the asterisk, and then the word hello. And then here we're just alerting from to show that the outer from did not get changed at all. It was only changed inside of the function. When a value is passed as a function parameter, it's called an argument. In other words, to put them straight, a parameter is when you do the declaration of the function, and an argument is when you call the function. We declare functions listing their parameters, then call it pass. Yeah, pretty much what I just said. So there's another thing that you can do that's really cool, and it's called default values. So in our above example, we have show message, and we have two parameters. if you only give it one or you don't give it enough, all of the ones that you didn't give it are going to be undefined. So you'll see here we just get and then undefined because we have no value for that second parameter or that second argument. So what you can do is you can just do this where you have the parameter name, and again, this is when you declare the function. You have the parameter name, you do an equal sign, and then whatever you want the default value to be. One thing to keep in mind is this default value only gets used when this parameter isn't given. So we have this here. I'm actually going to get rid of that. And I'm going to do... All right, so if I do show message and we'll do boomer, we get boomer, no text given. Okay, perfect. So this default parameter was used. But if I give it boomer programs, then it's going to use whatever was passed in for that argument. So the default value is only used when something is not passed in for that parameter or argument. So it's essentially like just passing in undefined. So I think we could even just do that if I were to do... Yeah, so by not passing it in, you're essentially passing in undefined, and that's just what it's showing here. The evaluation of default parameters. A default parameter is evaluated every time the function is called without that respective parameter. Yada, yada, yada. Back in the day, this is how you handled default parameters. You would just check each one to see if it was undefined, and if it was, you could set whatever you wanted to it. So you could still go this way, but it's just way nicer to just use this. Or, yep, you could do this as well. I guess you could use the NCO, the 2 question marks as well. That would work. Yeah, so this is just more... It's just showing other ways to check it. Yeah, so a bunch of different ways to do it. Just use the new stuff. It's supported everywhere. So now this is where you get to see the benefit of functions. At first, because when we were going over those other examples, you guys were probably thinking like, this is dumb. So when you return a value, you're actually giving it back to something. So here, we want the sum of these two things. You use the keyword return and then whatever you want to return. And so here you'll see we have our sum 1 and 2. So A is 1, B is 2, and these are numbers. So we get 1 plus 2 is 3. That gets returned. So this runs and it returns 3 into this result variable, creating it so we now have that value in the variable of result. The directive can be in any place of the function. One thing to keep in mind is when you return, it's kind of like a break in those for loops the video before, but it breaks out of that function, so the function stops running. So here we're checking an age. We're checking to see if they're 18 or over. If they are, we return true. So if that happens, the code stops right here and it just breaks out of this loop. This stuff will never run. Now, if this isn't true, then we'll get this else to run, and that's what'll happen. So here we're asking for how old you are. We're doing our if check age. So we have check age. We're passing in the argument of age, which is whatever you typed. And then if it's 18 or older, it will return true. So then this condition will be a truthy condition because we're returning true. If we return confirm, that's not a truthy thing. So this will be false. And then we'll run this second one right here. It's also, you can just return if you just want to break out. So like something like this, let's say you had a, just for lack of a better explanation, let's say you had an adult website, and whatever county or state or country you lived in, you needed to be 18 to go and view that site. You could do this where we're doing this right here, where we're saying, hey, if they're not of age, so if we get a falsy value, just return. Don't run anything else, because what ends up happening usually is you're going to have a bunch of code down here, like hundreds of lines, or you're calling a bunch of other functions. So if you know that this person shouldn't be there anyways, you can just return out and none of this other code will work. Kind of a performance gain, and it just helps your code run a little cleaner, and sometimes it even helps with troubleshooting. If the code above, yeah, so kind of what I was just explaining. Yeah, some more examples. You can't have a new line between the return and the values. It will literally just, actually, I don't know. I'm not sure if this will just still return or if this will actually error out. Let's find out, guys. All right, we'll do. So this is another thing I would encourage you guys to do is, so like, I know that you need the values need to be on the same line as return, but that doesn't mean that if I return and the values are on a different line, I think it still returns. I don't think it errors out. So instead of going onto a server and being like, oh, hey, will this work? Try it out in the console first. Play around with the code. And if what you get is not what you expected, take that information and go to the Discord server, whether it's mine or Colt's or whatever other instructor you guys have you're on their Discord server to, and share. Be like, hey, I did this. I was expecting Y. I got Z. Why is that? Don't just go and ask, oh, does this work? No, go give it a shot. Like, try it. That's what programming is about. Okay, so we'll do if age is greater than or equal to 18. So we'll return, and then we'll just do YOLO, else. What? And actually, let's do. Okay, so this is a warning. This is not an error. So let's check this out. So we'll do age. We'll do 19. Okay. So we do still return. We just don't return any values. So what it's showing here is this will still work. This will still return out of the function. But none of these values are going to be returned with it. It's just going to be an undefined value. We're just breaking out of the function and calling it a day. Yeah, so it just becomes an empty return. So I guess if we would have just read, we would have found out. But sometimes I like playing around with the code. Functions are actions, so their names are usually verbs. They should be short, but they should be to the point. So here you'll say like get a number, calculate a number, create a, show message, get age, calc sum, stuff like that. Again, code is more about readability than brevity. With prefixes in place, a glance at a function name gives me an understanding of what it is and what it should be doing. One function, one action. You will see code where people, and this is something you're going to do when you start building your first projects, and it's okay. I did the same thing. The first game I built, I think I had 2 functions and each had like 500 lines of code. Those are awful functions. You want functions to be small and concise. 1, for readability, like I keep saying. And 2, easier to troubleshoot. So, one function, one action. It's just saying, do that. Ultra short function names. Functions that are used often sometimes have super short names. The jQuery framework, which isn't used a whole lot anymore with a lot of the new ES6 stuff, defines a function with the $sign. And then there's a library called Lodash, which uses underscores. Don't worry about this stuff. If this sentence makes no sense to you, ignore it. You'll get to it eventually. Functions should be short and do one thing. If that thing is big, sometimes you got to split out the function. So this is showing us how it splits up the prime number task from the previous video that I skipped because I didn't think that was a good example. So what we'll do here is, so let's say, should person be allowed in? So let's pretend we're building a site where you've got to be a certain age, right? So what you could do here is first spell everything, right? So we could be like, all right, let's do, if age. So pretty much what we had before. Return false. So if they're 18 or over, they can come in. If they're not, they can't. And then, God, I wish there was, I'm trying to think of something better than this. Oh, actually, that's a good idea. All right. So let's say we are in a place where, all right, so here we have, let's do if age is greater than or equal to 21. You're allowed in. Else if you're 18. So we got console.log can drink, or we'll do wristband. So like in the US, there are some venues that allow 18 and over, but you have to be 21 to drink. So like if you go to one of these events, they check your ID, and if you're 21 or over, you'll get a wristband that shows you're of age, so you can get drinks from the bartenders. So let's just do no wristband, and here we'll just do go home. This is a stupid example, but I'm just trying to show, since I didn't do the primes task, I want to show how you can break apart functions. So this, not bad, this is a totally acceptable function, but we're doing a couple different things. And actually, okay, I'm going to switch this up. Sorry, guys. Let's pretend age and sex matters. So we're checking if your age is 21 and sex is male. We'll do blue wristband. I don't know why this would matter, but let's just pretend it does. And then here we could do else if age is greater than 21 and sex equals female. Console.log red wristband. So you can see, so now we're going to have a bunch of checks because we have this second thing that we're concerned about. And again, this would still be like an okay, function, but let's pretend like it was far more difficult than this. So what we would do is we could do a function that says is of age, and we'll pass in age, and we'll do 21. We'll return, let's just return 21. Else if age is greater than or equal to 18, let's just return 18. And then else, let's return false. All right, so now we have an age one. And now let's check wristband color, and that'll be sex. So if sex equals M, let's return blue. And so this is kind of cool because we can return more than just blue or true or false. All right, cool. So we have two functions now. So what I can do is we can get age, which is going to be is of age, and you would likely, this would be like a prompt or whatever, but we'll just pass in 21, and we'll do color, and that'll be color of, what did I name it as? Wristband color. And we'll do male. And so now we have, so now because of these two functions, we have the two pieces of information we need, and we could literally just do and you'll see I get 21 blue. And now this is a pretty contrived example. This doesn't probably make a whole lot of sense, but I just wanted to show why or when you want to start thinking about breaking functions up, and you can use multiple functions to accomplish the same thing. Yeah, so we're going to skip all that because, like I said, that's the primes one, which I skipped on the last video because I did not like that at all. It's a bad example for people who are new. So yeah, so that's functions. You will use functions all over the place all the time. They are core to pretty much every programming language. So get used to them, like them, enjoy them. So here, let's do our tasks now. Is the else required? The following function returns true if the parameter age is greater than 18. Otherwise, it asks for the confirmation and returns the result. So here it's asking us, do we need this else statement? We do not need this else statement. The reason we don't is if age is greater than 18, we return true, and so we break out of this function. If this isn't true, we keep going and we run whatever's down here. So if we remove this else statement, when this part isn't true, this still gets run. Yeah, so it's the exact same outcome for both of these. Yeah, no difference. And again, it's because this returned true. If we're over this age, we break out of the function. If we're not, we just keep going until we find more code. Rewrite the function using a ternary or the OR operator. Okie dokie. All right, so we got function age. And this one's pretty easy, so we'll just return age greater than 18. We'll return true. Otherwise, we'll return the confirm blah, blah, blah. And that's another thing. If you're just returning the output, you can just do return. A lot of people at the beginning will do something like this. And then they'll come down here and they'll return value. That's totally fine. That's not wrong. But if all you're doing is setting this variable just to return it, just return the whole thing. And this, again, this is just something that you get used to as you program more. Yeah, so there's that. Or you could do the OR. So this is either true or you return this. So I don't put the parens around here in the ternary operators, but you can if you want. Again, it's not wrong. Function min. Write a function called min, which returns the least of two numbers. All right, so we'll do function min. We'll take a, b. And then there's a couple ways we could do this. We could do if a is less than b, return b, or no, return a because a is smaller, else return b. Or we could do return A less than B, return A or B. Because again, this is checking if A is less than B. If that's true, that means A is smaller, return A. If it's not, that means B is smaller, return B. Both of them work. And here you'll see they have that one, and they did the same stuff, so that's cool. Function to do the power. The power, if you're not familiar with this, with math, is it's like if you do 3 to the third power, you're just saying take 3 and times it by itself 3 times. So it's 3 times 3 times 3. If you did 4, it would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, so on and so forth. So for this one, we'll do pow, we'll do xn. I would literally just do this. The double asterisk or the double multiplication in JavaScript just means to the exponent. So we have x, which is the number we want, and n will be the amount, is what we want to do to the power of, and that's what this double asterisk does. That's all it is. Oh, wow. Oh, so they're actually... Okay, interesting. So here what they're doing is they're taking a result, they're setting it equal to whatever number we passed in. We're setting I equal to 1, and then while I is less than n, we want to multiply the result by x. So again, remember it's... So for instance, let's do, if it was 3 and 3. So result is 3. And then here we're starting at 1, because since we set result to 3, we have 1 less power we want to go by. And so that's why we're adding the 1 here. So I is 1. Is I less than 3? Yes. Okay. Result times 3. So at this point it's 3. So 3 times 3. Add 1. All right, is 2. Or 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay, then we add 1. So now I is 2. Is 2 less than 3? Yes. So now we have 9 times 3, which is 27. Then we add 1. I is now 3. Is 3 less than 3? No. Break. Result. Yeah, and so here they're just showing... They're just checking to make sure that you at least give it 1 power. So that second argument or parameter. So don't worry too much about the math on this. Just make sure you understand the fact of parameters and arguments and how you're passing them in and returning things. That's really the biggest thing. They're using a whole lot of math that I don't particularly care for, especially if you're a beginner, but whatever. So that's functions, guys. I hope you guys learned something today. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, share them in the comment section below. Discord server, link to the Discord server is in the description box. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.